Well, it's me again, and this is my podcast and my world, where I take you along on an adventure where we get to explore everything and anything that goes on in my mind. Oh boy, is it random, is it crazy, it's nuts, it's all over the place. So grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's have a good time. I don't know how it's possible, but at 34 degrees, I'm cold. I don't get it. I'm cold. All the way through to my bones. Oh, good morning. Hello. Good afternoon, good evening. You know, I film this in the morning. I do. I put this all together in the morning on my ride to work. But I usually don't upload it until later in the day. So I don't know if I should say good morning because, well, y'all aren't listening to me in the morning unless you're listening to this a day behind or so. Anyways, I guess it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to say it anyways. Good morning, everybody. Hello. It is 34 degrees. I know I already covered that, but it is cold. 7:16 in the morning. And I literally just got in the car and, it's raining and it's nasty and I gotta work in this crap today. I'm so not excited about that. Hopefully it stops raining or at least slows down. And I don't think it's gonna stop, it's gonna warm up. But I might be surprised. We might get a heat flash of 55 degrees. Boy, that'd be great. Okay, so today, I was asked by Babs to talk about my favorite movie. Well, here's the problem. A lot of you know this, and a lot of you don't know this. I have a really bad addiction. Now, I understand with addiction, the best part, or getting over an addiction, is recognizing the fact that you are addicted. All right, I know that I'm addicted, but I don't want to get over it. I have an addiction, and it is sometimes a very unhealthy addiction, and it also becomes more of an obsession. I suffer from OCD. Oh, excuse me. I suffer from OCD. Well, I used to be I used to be really bad. I used to clean. Everything had to have its place and be in its place and be extremely perfect. And you couldn't have a frickin' crumb on the table, or my house used to be spotless until I married my wife. I love my wife to death. She is amazing, but she is messy. And after about 2 years of constantly picking up and cleaning after her and constantly, I gave up. I had a breakdown, a mental breakdown. It was some rage. It was crazy. It was horrible. I was a bad, mean, nasty person. I'm surprised my wife is still with me. And I came to the realization that the only one with a problem here is me, and I gave up. And it was a good thing I did, because a year or two later we started having children. And I thought my wife was very messy. Children are even worse. So I gave up. I just gave up. It still bothers the hell out of me. But I gave up. I started concentrating my OCD in other areas. So if something is driving me insane or bothering me in my environment that needs to be cleaned or needs to be straightened or fixed, I divert that energy into doing other things. One is my addiction. I concentrate on my addiction. I also, well, I don't know how many of you know this, but I've been coloring. I mentioned this, I think, yesterday. I've been coloring for a long time, and but I've been using just cheap, like dollar store colored pencils, Crayola pencils, any type of coloring pencil or marker or gel pen or whatever that's cheap. I've been using really cheap products for the longest time, and I think if I was to use better products, then my skills would be better. It would look better. It'd look nicer and smoother and cleaner. So I skimped just a little bit, and I bought myself some really nice colored pencils. They are brand spanking new to the market. As a matter of fact, they are not going to be released until the 15th. They're from, I believe it's called DeWalt? Derwent. They are British company, and they just came out, or they're coming out with a pencil called Pro Color. And the early reviews on these are just insane. They are some of the most amazing colored pencils ever. And I mean, they blow some of the like Primo Color and that kind of stuff out of the water. So I bought myself a set of these. So I'm kind of excited to be able to use these and that kind of thing. Also, on my Amazon list, I just haven't ordered it yet, is a storage bag or container bag for them, so they don't touch each other and they're not banging against each other. So there's basically very little to no chance of the leads inside cracking and breaking because they're fairly soft pigment. So anyways, that's not what I want to talk about, and now I'm halfway to work and it's like, crud, I've already talked about all this stuff. Okay, my addiction. Let's talk about my addiction. My addiction is movies. I'm addicted to film. Theatrical film. It is a very bad addiction. It's almost a hoarding kind of thing, or what have you. I have a constantly growing collection of movies, constantly growing, and unfortunately, being where we're living right now, all of my films are in storage. I am not able to have access to them, and so that also has made living where we're living right now very tough, because I play with my movies. I sort them, I look through them, I go out and find more. I'm just very OCD about them, and so it bothers me when I can't see them. And so I don't limit myself to any type of I don't limit myself to a particular type of format. I am an open format person. If I have a title, let's say The Wizard of Oz. If I have a title for The Wizard of Oz, and I have 3 different formats, I usually will hold on to all 3 different formats. So if I have a VHS copy, I'll hold on to it. If I have a Blu-ray copy, I'll hold on to it. If I have a Betamax, I'll hold on to it. So I like the different formats because when you watch them, they come across differently. I'm also, okay, so my collection of VHS tapes and movies and all that kind of stuff started originally back when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I started collecting them. And it was VHS. And I think I had, by the time I was 12, I probably had 100 titles. Now, back then, that was a lot of money because each VHS tape was $5 to $10. You know, that was a lot of money for a kid. And when DVDs came out, shortly after they came out, I made a mistake, in my opinion, and I started converting my collection from VHS to DVD. When DVDs very first came out, they were saying, "Oh well, you want to go VHS or you want to go DVD anyways because it's a more solid platform." VHS tapes really only have a shelf life of about 7 years. After 7 years, the VHS tape starts to severely deteriorate. That's what they were promoting. They were telling everybody, "Oh, get away from the VHS tapes. They're garbage after about 7 years. They start deteriorating to the point where you can't really watch the film anymore. Blah 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 blah." Well, it was a bunch of crap. Yes, VHS tapes will eventually deteriorate. Eventually, the tape itself ends up, because it's made of plastic, will end up getting brittle and possibly breaking. Not in 7 years. More like 50 years, 60 years. The plastic that they use for VHS tapes is extremely strong, durable, and then it uses kind of a magnetic system of sorts. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's a special way for the tape to be able to read, or the VHS player to be able to read the tape. That can deteriorate a little bit, and if it's not in a secure location, say like it's around a magnet or something like that, it can make it even worse. So you start losing part of your picture, like along the bottom of the screen, or you start having audio problems, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, VHS tapes are really stable. I just acquired 251 VHS tapes. They were given to me, and they're all amazing freaking tapes. They're all in fantastic condition, almost brand new. The sleeves are, for the most part, all the sleeves, except for about 10 of them, are all in primo condition. There's a couple of them that have a ripped corner here, or pressure damage on the end from where the tape is slid in and out of the case. But for the most part, they're in amazing condition, and they were all just given to me. I acquire VHS tapes and movies and that kind of stuff all the time. I am always having people say, "Do you want these?" And I always say, "Yes." So, doubles. I don't keep doubles. I have one copy and that's it. Unless it is something extremely rare. I currently have one copy of the movie Telephone, which is Whoopi Goldberg is in it, and it's just a fantastic film. I believe it was a Broadway play at one point in time, and she put it to film. But it is amazing. I don't want to give you you any too much information because I don't want to spoil it for you. But absolutely amazing. So I get these either VHS tapes, DVDs. People give me all kinds of stuff, and I will go through them. And so if I have 2 copies of something, I'll keep the better of the 2 copies. Sometimes I will keep both copies if it is a situation where I have an original release of something and then I have a 25th anniversary edition, for instance, or I have something. The other one is different. It's special, like it's director's cut. I'll try to hold on to some of those. So it just depends. It depends on the film. It depends on all kinds of stuff. Currently, I am trying to. Okay, let me back up. When it comes to VHS tapes, I can get them for 50 to 30 cents a piece. Very, very, very cheap. And so, when I go through and let's say I go to I go somewhere and they're selling VHS tapes, I go through and I look for primarily old movies, stuff that I know will or may never be put onto DVD. There is a ton of stuff. Like I just ran across a film with Bing Crosby in it. I've never seen it before, never heard of it before. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I believe it's called Something in the Bride or whatever. Anyways, I just out of curiosity, I go on to my IMDb there, because like I think it's IMDb or IMDb, whatever. I go on the database there and I type in the title to get more information, because they're loaded with the information, and it'll tell you in there too sometimes, when the video was created, and it tells you if it was ever put on. If it's never been put on DVD or Blu-ray, it'll say in there that it was not put on Blu-ray or DVD, and that kind of thing. But a lot of these films that I find I've never heard of, and they just blow my mind. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta get my hands on that. So, man, I'm talking about all this. That's not what I wanted to talk about. When it comes to movies and DVDs and stuff, I could probably talk for months and months and months. I've got probably an entire series worth of information here in my head. My podcast could be just about movies, probably. I don't think I'd ever run out of content. I have a YouTube channel that I started a while back called Surreal Cinema, but I haven't been able to work on it in a long time. But it was where I would sit and go through my movies and do reviews on movies that I just watched, and absolutely, it is a fantastic idea, a fantastic concept, but I don't have the situation, the layout, or the place to do it, and I don't have access to my movies right now. I was going in order of when I purchased them, so on my shelf is how I have them set up. But I can talk about that too. Today's podcast was supposed to be about my favorite movie, my all-time favorite movie, why it's my favorite movie, and that kind of thing. And I think I'm gonna have to try again tomorrow, and tell you all about my favorite movie tomorrow, because there's just not enough time. I'm just now pulling into the driveway here at work, so there's not enough time to talk about it. I mean, it might take an entire video. So come back tomorrow if you're interested in me telling you all about my most favorite movie and video, and what my favorite format is for it, and all that kind of good stuff. And I'll be more than happy to sit here with you and talk about that. If you have any ideas, suggestions, or anything you would like to hear me talk about, or whatever, leave it in the comment section down below. If you like what you hear, definitely give me a thumbs up and share my videos. You can find me, not all the time, but most of the time, you can find me over there on Instagram at Graham's Garden on Instagram. And yeah. So, okay, well, I need to get to work. So y'all have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. And until next time, bye for now.